he wasn't a tall man, and I think that he was conscious of that. And like sometimes short people tend to elevate themselves somehow. Maybe it's walking, a certain way of walking. But Rod overcame the shortness of stature with a power of personality and force. He was very forceful. Rod and I we were friends, but we were not kind of close friends.
Right.
It was a professional relationship. I would go to his office, and we never visited each other in our homes. But I was in a position to observe Rod, and I got to know him fairly well, as you do with business contact. He and I both met in 1948 in New York. Very briefly, there was a radio show that used to be called the Dr. Christian Show, and they advertised themselves as the only show on radio where the audience writes the scripts.
Right.
And they invited scripts from the audience and would pay you for them. And Rod and I both, at that time, won one of these contests. We were co-winners, and I met him actually when he was a student. And even then, he was recently returned from the war. He had been in the 101st Airborne as a parachutist and in the parachute corps with courage. I think courage is a good name, and bravery, because he ran into a lot of opposition here in town from people who wanted to who asked him to change his attitude toward writing, toward social issues, and he fought them all the way. He was a very humanitarian, and he often sided with the underdog, but always a humanist. And sometimes in television, what is gentle, what is unless it's violent, doesn't get much attention. I went to the University of Cincinnati, and right out of college, I went to work at a radio station called WLW, and I worked there for a year and a half. And when I left that job, Rod Serling took the job, and years later at parties, he would introduce me as the man who gave him his first job. It wasn't quite the way it happened, but it was very graceful of him to put it that way. And later, when I moved from New York to Los Angeles and was looking for work, I sent Rod he already had the Twilight Zone underway, and I sent him some story ideas, and he bought a couple of them. But it was a little involved because I had been writing live television in New York. I worked on the Today Show, and I did some live dramas there. But when I came to Hollywood, everybody said, "Oh, you can't do film. You can't do television out here because it's all on film, and you're a live writer." And it was very baffling because I went for about 6 months trying to find work in Hollywood, and finally I sent Rod some. I didn't think I was a Twilight Zone writer. I didn't think I could do it. But I sent Rod some ideas anyway, and he bought 2 of them. And so after that, I think I wrote 8 scripts, which is a small contribution compared to what Rod wrote. I think he wrote something like over 200 of them. But he was a remarkable man and incredibly creative.
If you've enjoyed your journey on the TV Time Machine, please like and subscribe. We look forward to having you again on the TV Time Machine.